Hey everyone, welcome back to Engagement Academy. This is the show that's brought to you from the other side of the camp of disengagement, the disengaged employee. We are filling in the gaps of your HR certification where you're given vague advice and a lot of pressure put on you to drive engagement, but they don't really tell you how. I don't love that for you. And I'm here to tell you my lived experience as the employee and as the people manager and as the executive. I'm going to teach you what it takes to drive engagement and how to do things in a certain way that will help you move the needle way faster. This is like your secret cheat code to why your employees are apathetic and quiet quitting like an army of zombies, okay? This show is like a disengaged employee's perspective whispering in your ear, like, don't just send a survey. Tell us what's in it for us. Don't just tell everyone to do something. Think about everyone's different perspective. And that's what we're going to talk about today is when you need people to take action, we need to zoom out of what's in it for you, the HR person. But it's hard because you're so busy. I know in the background now that you own so much of the business. And I want to thank you. Your employees aren't going to thank you because they don't get it, but I do now. You own so much behind the scenes and you do so much context switching emotionally from I had a baby to where's my 401k to my parent is going into hospice and I have a question about like pay leave to we need to fire this person and this person's starting. Let's welcome them into the company. Like, oh my gosh, you guys, what? That's why we all need a good therapist because that's a lot to take on emotionally, let alone all the problems you solve. But that's who you all are. You're incredible. You're these empathetic problem solvers. And HR is a rare breed. You guys are actually just so, I'm in awe of you. And I did not come up through the background of HR. I have done a ton of research and talked to hundreds of you and layered on everything I've studied about Gallup. And I'm like, oh, okay, here's the rinse repeat framework that makes sense to me. And a lot of what I teach, you're not going to find in a HR training because it's like high level business terminology. And that's great, but that's just like one layer. A lot of what I teach you is psychology because a lot of life is psychology, from dealing with a difficult neighbor or family member to your children or siblings. Those relationships are tricky and messy and full of potholes and landmines that you fall into sometimes. But when you're in the position of HR, not only do you have the incredible gift of empathy, it's like your superpower paired with your problem solving, which makes you an incredible asset to the executive team, you're in a position to make sure everybody is okay. And here's how you're going to do that. When you have a conversation with someone and you feel like you're being misunderstood, whether it's an executive or a people manager or an employee, it's because you're probably talking about something in terms that make sense to you. The best way to make sure everyone is okay and set your company up for the best financial success where everyone is also engaged, because yes, you can have both, is to think of daily life at work like standing on a beach ball. This comes from a book I read called Fierce Conversations with Kim Scott. I'll link out to it in the show notes. But you in HR, let's think of you on your yellow stripe of the beach ball, okay? You tell all the employees, hey, I need you to take this survey. And to you, that makes sense. You're like, I need to know what's going on. I know you guys have stuff to tell me, so tell me what it is. What everyone is hearing you say is, do this thing that does nothing for you and might get you into trouble because you probably have bad things to say. So with employees, you have to tell them like, hey, take this survey so that we can help turn this company into a great place to work. Give them permission to give you negative feedback because you need it to do your job, which is figure out the broken moments of the employee experience. You say things like, I'm fully expecting there to be negative feedback. We just ask that you're respectful and truthful, but please, by all means, let us know how we can do better for you. We want you to thrive here. We want you to work here for a long time. And we can only do that if you tell us what it's like to work here, because we know no company's perfect. Now switch to your managers. We need you to tell your employees to take this survey in your one-on-ones with your people, because they're like, I barely have time for one-on-ones. You think about what the managers care about, which is a more productive team that hits their deadlines and is like jiving and grooving. So to them, you say, hey, remember to tell your employees in your one-on-ones to take that survey because with that data, we're going to be able to make sure that you have a much more productive team. We need them to take the survey so that you can have higher performing teams. Tell them what's in it for them. They're more likely to do it. Then with executives, if they're like, don't send a survey, it's like, oh, well, executives care about money. Duh. They have to. That's why they're in the executive position. Executives need to hear things like, the key to unlocking more revenue is figuring out what's getting in the way of our revenue drivers, which is the employees. So this survey is nothing to fear. It's actually a big step in the right direction to a healthier bottom line. because when we find the broken moments, employees are more likely to be engaged, and engaged employees are more productive, and there's less turnover, and that's just good for business. In my Community Engagement Academy, this is just a side note, we have a ton of data and reports that you can use to hold your ground with either executives or whoever you're having to deal with who needs data. We've got all that categorized for you in the community so that you can back up what you're saying. If they're like, prove it. Executives make data-driven decisions. That's just how they think. That's how they have to think. So the point here, though, is you don't just tell the executives, well, we have to send a survey. How am I supposed to do my job if I can't send a survey? Because that's all about you. Like, you're saying to them, like, you need to care about me. And they shut down. So you tell everyone what's in it for them. You tell executives, you want to drive more revenue, we need to send a survey. I need you to remind employees when you're in meetings, executives, tell them to take that survey, because in there are the keys to us driving more revenue. Please encourage employees to take the surveys. And leadership, you need to lead by example by making sure that they know that you're expecting them to take this survey too, and that you want to know what gets in the way of doing their best work. Everyone needs to learn to shift. You and the executives, like, what is everyone's priority? You're on your yellow stripe of the beach ball, and you're like, I care about the people. You can tell it's a people issue. People. We have to take great care of the people. The executives are on the red stripe. They're like, money. We have to make more money. Managers are on the blue stripe, and they're like, oh my God, like, our team is so slow. We need to hire more. We need more headcount. We need to go faster. We need more people. We need productivity. We need to go more. We need productivity. But employees are on the green stripe, and they're like, help, I'm burned out. I don't know which way is up. These goals don't make sense. Deadlines keep changing. I don't know what's expected of me. I don't want to hate my job, but I do. I don't like this job. I hate this job. Everyone is shouting those things at the same time. You're saying, we have to take great care of the people. The executives are saying, we have to drive more revenue. Managers are saying, we need to be more productive. And employees are saying, please help me. This is chaos. But all of you are actually saying the same thing. And that's what's beautiful here. If you zoom out of your yellow stripe of the beach ball and look at the whole beach ball, you see everyone's talking about the solution to the same problem. Because taking great care of the people by delivering a better employee experience makes the employees more engaged, which makes them more productive, which drives more money for the business. You want to throw in another beach ball stripe if you have someone in operations who's like, we need to innovate. That too is the same solution. Let's say the whole sentence together. If HR cares about people, executives care about revenue, managers care about productivity, operations cares about innovation, employees just want to do their best work, great. Because taking great care of the people makes them more engaged, which makes them more productive, which unlocks innovation and therefore long-term scalable revenue for your business to grow in a more responsible way, because you are driving engagement and revenue at the same time. So when you're being met with resistance, whether it's giving you headcount on your team or sending an employee survey or getting employees to actually take the survey, if you are having to constantly remind people to do something and it's not working, or if you're having to advocate for yourself and no one's listening, stop. Zoom out of your beach ball, figure out which stripe you're on and which stripe they're on. What words do you need to use to help them understand that what you're asking for isn't selfish, it's actually going to help them accomplish their goal too. This is not going to be taught to you in any HR training. And full circle, this is why I've created Engagement Academy, because these episodes cover a lot. The course in my community covers even more, and the discussions that unfold, we can have the back and forth conversation with your specific situation to figure out which script you need to use, which template are you going to try, what surveys are you sending and why. You're not taught this stuff anywhere else. And other than Engagement Academy, I don't know where you're going to go for the tactics or the real-time help, or where you're going to go to get real-time answers that work, because I don't know any other community that's brought to you by a disengaged employee who is obsessed with you, who has made it her mission to fix a day in your life to make it less crazy so that you can lean into your superpower of empathy, so that you're understood and given permission to do your job, which is to take great care of those people that work at your company that you worked so hard to hire. I want to create a world where you don't feel bullied or shamed by your exec because they misunderstand you. I want to make you super equipped to hold your ground, not only in manager meetings and with employees, but be invited into the executive team meetings because they trust you and they need your perspective and they get that you hold the answers of what the revenue drivers need to be okay so that the company is okay. Everybody wants the same thing. They just have different priorities and nobody is bad. You really want to level up your leadership skills. Swap out your anger or swap out your people pleasing with curiosity. Curious people are a lot less angry. That's what I'm learning for myself, whether it's my personal life or launching this business. When we feel misunderstood, it can be easy to fly off the handle. You're talking to a moody, broody Italian Scorpio over here, who is a third-born youngest sister to two much older brothers. I am competitive. I like to win. I hate being misunderstood because I spent most of my childhood feeling misunderstood. So it gets triggered. But sometimes it can be a default mode of people pleasing. Like you ask for budget and then an executive says no. And you're like, okay, I guess I must deserve that. No, you don't. No, you need budget. You need headcount. You just need to figure out how to say it in terms that they're more likely to hear you. And that's totally possible. But that's the psychology part of your job that SHRM isn't going to teach you. Good Lord. No free Slack channel is going to be like, hey, think of it like a beach ball where everyone's on a different stripe. So thank you for listening to this show because this content's never really existed in this format before. And maybe just to round this out, I want you to reflect on a time where maybe you had an announcement or you needed employees to take action on something and they didn't do it. Can you go back and review that Slack message or that company email? How did you write it? Did you write it in a way that was a really compelling description of what was in it for them? And it's okay if you didn't, because who has time to think like that? You do now. If it was at another company and you can't remember, I think you can probably generally remember that you were probably like, hey, I need you to do this thing. Here's the deadline. That doesn't work. And that's just a very fundamental piece of making sure that you are set up for success to drive engagement. And it's understanding what everyone's priorities are and making sure that you are making your ask as a solution to someone else's need, because they're all the same thing. We have a lot more episodes coming up that are based on conversations happening in the community. So make sure you join Engagement Academy. You can have a 30-day free trial as being a listener of the show when you click on the link. And the topics we're going to be talking about in the next few weeks is what to do with brilliant jerks. We're going to be talking about survey formats, and we're going to be talking about the number one driver of disengagement. I think we'll touch on that next week. So thanks for listening. I can't wait to see you in the Engagement Academy community, and make sure you follow me on LinkedIn for all the latest updates on the show and what's happening next with what Engagement Academy is turning into. Take care of yourself, okay? Take a break, go for a walk. Your job does not define you, and neither does your productivity. You have permission from me, but you should get permission from yourself that your value doesn't come from how hard you work, okay? You are enough just as you are, and you're even more incredible that you chose HR. I will talk to you all next week, and take care until then.